I'm Diane McGarry.
And I'm Tom McGarry.
We're with Dracut Arts, and we're here to bring you a special program about drug addiction and how to take care of yourself and your loved ones. With us today is Maureen Cavanagh, who is our author in November, because she wrote a book about this very experience in her own life. Thank you so much for being with us today, Maureen.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Sure. So can you tell us how you found yourself in this situation and how you dealt with it?
I guess it was probably 2014. My daughter had come to me after her first year in college and told me that she had was experimenting with drugs, and that it was horrifying, and that she had tried heroin. And I immediately, I brought her in for an evaluation at the emergency room, actually, and because I didn't know what else to do. And
was she high at the time?
No.
She was just talking, hey, Mom, by the way.
Telling me that she had, was worried about herself, and she was just concerned. So I brought her in and had an evaluation done, and she was referred to an outpatient program. Of course, I think she told them part of the story and she told me part of the story, but I assumed that since we were so close and she had come to me, that she would always come to me. Mm. And that assumption, unfortunately, was incorrect, and that drugs, once they take hold, which they already had, she still had that bit of her that wanted out and wanted to find a way out, but it had already started that whole process of deceit that often accompanies drug and alcohol use.
The process of deceit.
Like you start lying to protect your addiction, and she had already started to do that.
So, wow. How long had she been using? Do you know?
I think it was fairly recent. I mean, I think she had drank maybe a little bit in high school that I didn't really know about. Maybe she smoked some pot, but there was no heavy drug use while she was living home. It was when she went away to college that it really started. The heroin use actually started when she came back home from college with somebody in our own town. Wow. And but the using and experimenting started in her first year of college.
That must have made you think, I wish she never went away.
It kind of did, although now I know that it would have happened anyhow, probably, because we often want to, and I did in the beginning, blame this one and that one, but it was her. She was trying to self-medicate and fill a hole or something with drugs, and that she probably would have done this anyhow.
How do you self-medicate? Did she have an injury or something, or was she just unhappy? Or
she didn't look unhappy to us. She was kind of unhappy being away from home because she was kind of a homebody. One of those kids that even when she stayed over a friend's house on a sleepover, she was always the first one home, and she just liked to be home. But it was a lack of confidence, and which was, I never really understood either, because she was popular and beautiful, but it was something that she didn't feel right about, herself, and trying to fit in, which is so typical of many kids. And, thank God not all of them go this route, but it's something to pay attention to.
So you mentioned that it can happen to anyone, right? You don't have to be orange, black, purple, green, and you don't have to be rich or poor. It's something that can happen to anyone in any situation.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. So if you are afraid or concerned about someone you love or a friend, or about yourself, what should you do?
I think that, there are a lot of places to educate yourself now, thank goodness. And I think when this had first happened in my family, there wasn't a lot of places to go. So there's Learn to Cope, which is cope.org. People can find it there. And those are in-person meetings. And they're kind of like an Al-Anon or an R-Anon, which are other in-person meetings. And those are free of charge, they're open to the community. And you can go there if you're suspecting maybe your loved one has a problem, or if you know your loved one has a problem, and be surrounded by information and other people that are going through the same thing. And that, you know, not all of those things, there weren't as many meetings, but it was hard, and it was hard to find out about these things when I was first going through this. Mm. So, I mean, my answer was to go to, you know, you go to your doctor, you go to the emergency room, right? Because I didn't know who to ask. But even I was met there, and still this happens, especially, you know, unfortunately, in the place where you would expect them to have all the information would be the emergency room. It depends on who's there. Now, sometimes they have recovery coaches in the emergency room now to help, but all too often people are met with a list of places that are that may take their insurance and told to go make some phone calls. Wow. And I mean, you know, and this is
that must be overwhelming. I can just think how overwhelming that is. Even when I'm healthy and just have to go, oh, here, you need, you know, a root canal. Call these guys. I'm like, oh my gosh, and that's a healthy situation.
Well, that's why I created the organization that I created. It's called Magnolia New Beginnings, and people can find that at magnolianewbeginnings.org. There's information on there. It's a national organization. It came out of this need for information for myself and not being able to find it anywhere, and it's grown to over 25,000 people in the organization. And I think that if it's not on there, you can ask somebody and they'll tell you where it is across the country. So it's turned into a beautiful thing. And we have, I think it's 31 different groups. We have a national group that I encourage everybody to join. And those groups are on Facebook. So they're closed groups on Facebook. You have to request to join. There's a couple of questions you have to answer. And after you answer the questions, you're welcomed into the group, and you're able to ask other people that have gone through this or are going through it currently questions. And there's a Massachusetts group, and we have, I think, about 1,600 people just in the Massachusetts group. And trust me, whatever problem you have or you think you have or question you have, there is definitely somebody that's gone through the same thing and can answer that question on there.
It's so helpful to have someone who's gone before.
Right. So and, you know, even as far as treatment centers, when I first was trying to get my daughter into treatment, after I realized the extent of the problem, I Googled things. I didn't have anybody to ask. You can't go next door to the neighbor and say, can I borrow a cup of sugar? And do you know a good place to send my daughter for her heroin addiction? So you have to laugh. This is even in the book. You have to laugh, otherwise you're
crying all the time, and it doesn't work.
Right? Yeah. No, crying it would never help me at all. I don't understand the whole concept of a good cry. I don't understand. So I realized that here's a gap, and there's no one to ask. So I always called Magnolia, the state groups, especially Massachusetts group, is amazing. It's like the Angie's List of treatment. You can go on there and say, I have a child that is going through this, that, and the other things. You know where I should go. And even at 2:00 in the morning, 20 people will answer you. Wow. So it's amazing, amazing. And we're going to be starting online. We have done a few online Zoom meetings because of COVID, but we're going to be starting more online Zoom meetings and trainings through Magnolia in the next couple of months.
So these are not only confidential, they are online. So, and 24/7 is what you just said.
24/7.
Someone's always there.
Because I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would be just losing my mind because I didn't know what was happening with her. And I needed someone to talk to then, someone who understood what I was going through. And that happens all day, every day, all night, every night on that page, on those pages. So like I said, over 25,000 people across the country. In Canada, we have people from out of the country as well.
How reassuring that must be, just to know you're not alone.
Yes, to know you're not alone, and to know that there's hope. Because, people followed my story, and even at the end of the book, in the hardcover, I'm afraid to really talk about the future. And when I first went out that first year after writing the book, I was afraid to talk about the future. It wasn't until she had about a year that I started to feel like I could even talk about her having a year, because I always had my heart in my throat. And it's not like I think, this is over, because I've watched people do well for 3 years and then relapse. And it's heartbreaking at any time, but it's particularly when someone has started to rebuild their life.
Well,
so
people
I don't
can backslide at any time.
At
There's
any
no
time.
guarantee. It's just
but after
one day at a time, right? It's one moment,
Absolutely.
sometimes it's even 1 second at a time.
But after over 40 treatment centers and 13 overdoses that brought her to the hospital, and probably another 13 that she didn't go to the hospital, I feel like every day I have with her is one extra day, and I make the most of every single minute of it. I feel incredibly blessed and lucky, because the difference between me and the other 72,000 people that we're losing a year, which is staggering. If you think about Gillette Stadium.
I can't even wrap my head around that.
Think about Gillette Stadium, completely full.
Yeah.
Every person in there, not being with a family member necessarily, being with somebody they may or may not know, and all of these people having mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers, all of those people dying of an overdose in 1 year. And that's what it looks like. So it's staggering. It's staggering.
So we have this, did you know that 9 out of 10 people with addiction starts using before they are 18? And that everyone thinks it's not my child.
Yeah, that's the three most dangerous words in the English language, as far as I'm concerned. Because I don't think I was one of those parents that thought my child could do no wrong, but I certainly did not see this coming, because she, was an amazing young person with lots of things that she was looking forward to doing, and none of them was spending years doing heroin and being in and out of treatment and jail and everything else. So there's, the trauma that happened to her. She calls it the yets. If people would only get help before all the yets happened. She hadn't been arrested yet. She hadn't been, in treatment yet. She hadn't been overdosed yet. All the yets. And it's hard to explain that to somebody who's in the middle of it, but she does a pretty good job of that. This I find to be, I mean, this I think smacks you in the head as far as I'm concerned. And when I do presentations, to high schools in particular, I always, or to family members, I always use this, because you can look at the signs of early drug use and the signs of suicidality, two things that everyone worries about when they have an adolescent, and then compare it to typical adolescent behavior. And you can see why people miss the signs. Because we don't want to think our child is doing drugs. And because, and I do
anyway.
Right.
Yeah. And
I do think that, people take this as as personal, something, as they didn't do something right. So they don't tend to look at it. They look at it and they think, well, this is just their mood swings. And yeah, okay, so they're, changed friends and they're cranky and all these things, but that also sometimes looks like early drug use. So
we're now in 2020, but the last decade we lost 500,000 Americans to opioids. That's horrible.
Why are we not doing more is really because we know what to do. We're just not doing it. It's not like this is some big mystery. We have to from the time our children are very young, in the schools and out of the schools, build resiliency. We have to teach them how to cope with their emotions and do that in a very direct way. And there are programs to do that. We're just not doing it. And then we have to also, when somebody is having trouble, whether it's a mental health issue or whether it's early beginning drug use, we have to embrace them, and we have to put them in long-term treatment. You don't get treated for something for 14 days and go away like this. It just doesn't happen. And we're not doing those things. We're doing the quick and easy. And the quick and easy doesn't work. And I don't know why it's taken this many people to learn that. And it will be 72,000 or more in 2020 because of all the isolation that has happened with COVID.
I was wondering about that because suicide has gone up, right? Now.
Yep. And so is overdose. I mean, it's just when we're just not handling this problem.
I had heard that insurance doesn't really cover enough of recovery, that people aren't in a recovery house, is that what you call it? I'm sorry, for long enough. And they also need to be in a halfway house. And you really have to build up a whole different support system, right? Because if you've come in and most of your friends are also using, and that's the way they know how to cope, right, either by denial or by use, then you don't want to go back with those people because they're not going to teach you new skills.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you know, what other disease do we have to reinvent our whole lives? I mean, and this is a disease, whether people like to hear that or not. It's been classified as a disease since 1950 something, so this is nothing new. And it changes the structure and the function of the brain, so that's why it's a disease. So it does do that. Yes, it starts with something somebody does to set off that chain reaction, but so do a lot of diseases. You know, too much sugar, smoking, lots of diseases start off like that with a choice. What we do is we put people in detox, and then if they're lucky, they go on to clinical stabilization. In Massachusetts, we're very fortunate to have mass health treatment centers, but not everybody gets to go to even the next part after those first 7 days. And then after those next 14 to 21 days, people should be going to a safe, solid, secure place to live for whatever 6 months to a year, where they learn how to get out into the community, make strong, sober support friends, deal with the urges and the cravings that they'll have, and basically change their whole life. And that doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen in 7 days.
No, certainly not.
Yeah.
I've heard some horror stories actually about how there'll be a treatment center right next door will be a liquor store or a marijuana store or something. So it's really difficult. Or one person told me that a hospital had NA meetings, but some of the people who came were actually the dealers. So that really defeated the whole purpose for the members who were coming.
I mean, you really need a support system around you for a while before you're able to go out and navigate the world. And, you know, there's going to be dealers. In order to be able to navigate that, you have to have had this strong support before going out to do that.
So I'm a time function person. So you said you have to have enough time to, I remember when my kids were little, there are all these things, you know, you're going to breastfeed for so long, you're going to change diapers for so long, you're going to have this behavior, the terrible twos are only for 2. So there was always the light at the end of the tunnel. Is there an idea of when, I know you're never not an addict once you're an addict, but is there a time period when, yes, I'm more on secure footing now, I can hold my head up and go walking down the street by myself and not be so worried?
I would think it's different for everybody. It took a year for me to start to see my daughter come back because her brain was changed. And, you know, after a year, I started to see more and more of the Katie that I knew. But there's a program in Italy called San Patriano, and it's a community, and it's 3 to 4 years long. We sent our children to college for 3 to 4 years. Why do we think that they can change their whole life and the chemical balance of their brain and everything else in you know, a shorter amount of time? And in that program, they spend a year in the program, and then they learn a skill, they learn or a trade, that then they slowly go out into the community and they practice the trade or the skill out in the community and come back, and then they slowly fully go out into the community. And this is what we should be doing, and it works. But
wonderful model.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and there are other places, you know, and there are people, particularly if you have money and you can afford to have your child in treatment for a year, there are year-long programs, and there are free programs like, or, you know, donation-based programs that are very, very faith-based, like Teen Challenge, that are, which is in Brockton here in Massachusetts, that are 18-month programs for men. And I think they have a program in Rhode Island too, but they're very faith-based. So if you're not of that faith, or if that's not going to work for you, that's not going to work. And then there are other programs across the country where people stay for a year. But I mean, I think it's a minimum of a year.
So you mentioned something twice now. You've said the brain chemistry changes. And Can you talk a little bit more about that, how it changes and how long it takes to come back? Because you said your daughter started to change back, her brain chemistry was changing again.
Yeah, again, I think that it's probably different for everybody, but it takes at least 90 days for things to kind of settle down. I try
And
not
what does that mean, settle down?
to come back to normal, to start to come back to normal, even begin to start to come back to normal.
Okay, so that's not normal yet. That's just from getting over full to coming away from being functional.
Absolutely. There's a wonderful woman named Dr. Ruth Pote, Potee, and I think it's ruthpote.com is her website, but you can look on YouTube for Ruth Pote, Ruth Potee, and she has videos on the physiology of addiction. And that's where I first learned, and I went and saw her over and over and over again. I still can't even come close to explaining it how she explains it. So I would encourage people. But when I first heard her speak, and also Dr. John Kelly from the Recovery Research Institute, I think it's recoveryanswers.org is his website at MGH. And I heard the two of them speak, but Ruth really stuck in my head because she explains it in such a way that anybody can understand it, but she's not talking down to you, but you don't have to be a doctor to understand her either. And she speaks all over the place. She's spoken all over Massachusetts, and she records these presentations, and she also will give you her presentation for free if you email her and say, I want a copy. And so will Dr. Kelly. But they talk about what happens to the brain chemistry and what parts of the brain are affected. And in a nutshell, it's that, you know, those basic parts of the brain that cover decision making and executive functioning, and the parts of the brain that are a reward center, and the parts of the brain that drive the responses that are integral to life, like breathing and stuff like that. So it tricks the brain into making you feel like I have to use in order to live.
Right.
I mean, so this is actually happening in this person's brain. So if they overcome that, in my mind, they're probably some of the strongest people in the entire world. But that's also why it's so difficult. And that's also why you can't love this out of a person. You can show them as much love as you possibly can when they're going through this, because that does help. But you can't make them do anything. And they're not doing anything to you either. That's what I try to get parents to understand when I speak to them. That, there's Ruth. She's amazing. And so it's really important for people to understand when they're going through this, that this is not anything they did wrong, but it's also not theirs to fix. That they can put all the support and let the person that they love know that there is nothing that can make them stop loving them, but that they're going to have to, part of this is going to have to be their own journey. And it's hard for parents because we don't want to accept that. We want to fix things for our children.
It's also being really clear. I don't like you right now, but I really love you. And the love isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, we don't like what they're doing, but we do love them, and there is nothing that will change that. And that's why I am not a proponent of the tough love idea of cutting people off, because if you understood really what was going on in a person's brain and the chemical changes in their brain, structural, functional changes in a person's brain, you would not be able to do that because they're not completely in control of what they're doing.
Well, hopefully those websites will help people understand it more. And you're talking about it and bringing that forward as part of the problem, because often people just think it's a matter of willpower.
Yeah,
I mean,
the stereotype I have, if somebody is addicted, that's a moral failing on their part, but it's really a disease. And if a child becomes an alcoholic or a drug addict, that's a failing on the part of the parents. But neither of those is true.
No.
But our society, I think, still partly acts and believes that that's the case.
And it keeps a lot of parents from getting help for themselves. And I think that, or even seeing it. When we're seeing it, we just can't believe it because we know we did everything we could possibly do. So, I mean, as a child, I grew up with two parents that had a substance use disorder. And I always thought that if they loved me enough, they would have stopped until I watched my daughter go through this. And then I realized that that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And I know way too many people that have lost their children, and no one ever regrets letting their child know that they love them every single opportunity, but they do regret not talking to them if they lose them in this way.
Wow.
And like I always say, luck. That's all. The only reason I still have my daughter today, and it is just today. So, I mean, I pray every day that it continues, and I think it will. But I never know. But nobody really knows, right?
Well, I want to put this up again. The New Magnolias. I think, is there a phone number on here? Goodness.
There is at the top, I believe, the phone number,
Oh.
and people can reach me that way too. Or they can
email address, so they could email you.
They can email me, or they can get me on the phone. I'm a kind of a one-man band here, so I'm usually the person that answers the phone. But I always tell people that, I will always answer a call from a parent too. I'm happy to give them information on where to find treatment, on how to get into the group, on other places they can look for assistance. We have a really good resource in Massachusetts. It's called alliesinrecovery.net, and on that page there is a way to find craft training, which I'm craft trained. It's a therapy modality, and if you go onto that website, alliesinrecovery.net, there's a place that asks for a promo code, and in Massachusetts we have a grant so that if you put in your zip code, anybody can access it for free.
Here we go. Is addiction ripping your family apart?
Right. So I think you have to join, and then when you join, you have to, and you can always, if you don't want to get the emails, you can always unsubscribe. But there is a place in there to go for craft training, and then you put your zip code in, and you could always put mine, 01864, if you're not in Massachusetts for some reason and are hearing this. And you can go in there and you can view the craft trainings, which is very helpful. I mean, craft was done a long time ago, and it's a little bit out of date there. They are down there in the Learning Center. But you can, they have valuable information. And I periodically do family recovery coach training. And it's a 3-day training, and I do that. Well, before COVID, I was doing it all over the country, but I'm going to be doing a free one for families pretty soon.
That's wonderful. And here, it's because of COVID, membership now is free for families and individuals. So it's really more of
Oh, that's awesome.
a problem now, because
we're so
all
isolated.
having issues that come up that normally we don't have. We think, oh, I'm better, but now we're so restricted.
Right.
We're just restricted, and it's stressful. We all
and
stress in different ways.
On Magnolia, we were having Zoom meetings, and we're going to be resuming those soon. But we also have 2 Facebook pages for people in recovery. One is called Magnolia We Do Recover, and the other one is called Wicked Sober. And both of those pages I also manage, and between those 2 pages there's about another 10,000 people that are in recovery, and we are constantly posting Zoom meetings on there too. So
that is great.
People can get help.
Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful to talk about this problem and to get a glimmer of hope and realize there are wonderful resources out there for both the families and the addict themselves. Thank you for bringing this forward. And please, if you need help, reach out. There's always somebody there to help you, someone who's gone before and knows the path and knows how you're feeling. Thank you very much. This is Diane McGarry and
Tom McGarry
from Dracut Arts, bringing you a public service announcement, because Maureen Cavanagh will be with us in November to discuss her book, If You Love Me, A Mother's Journey Through Her Daughter's Opioid Addiction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.